am thinking about how it is spring and how, Earth Day was last week and just April and the turning of springing forward, growth, new growth. And actually, this has been something on my mind lately because many of you know I lived in Florida for about 4 years and then I just moved in January to Richmond, Virginia. When I arrived here, it was like blizzard, so I have experienced the sharpness of the seasons a little bit more so because in Florida, I would like forget what season it was. It was like hurricane or not hurricane season. That was like it. But here, it has very much been evident to me that like, oh no, that was winter for real. And then okay, we're thawing and now there's new, things are starting to spring up and I'm seeing the real colors of this place now. And that's been fun to just like be able to be outside more and just, you know, investigate my new surroundings. So I'm curious for you, for today's community builder, what little glimpses of new growth have you started to see springing up in your life? In your surroundings, in your heart? What's kind of starting to emerge? You may not have the full picture yet. You may just get a little sense. So it can be literal or it can be figurative, however you choose to interpret this question. But I would love to know from you, what is springing up in your world right now, in your heart, in your life? What are you starting to sense? Are there any new inklings? So if anyone has any thoughts to share on that, I would love to hear from you.
I got one.
All right. Hey, Walter.
Hey, so this past week, um, from Wednesday through Friday, I was on PTO time.
Oh, yes, that's right. You told us you were about to be last week. Okay, how'd it
Yes,
go?
and I tell you this, every time I take PTO time, it feels great.
Hmm.
You know, especially since I work overnight.
Yeah,
And if people, if you work overnight, you know what that does to the body, especially like regarding sleep habits and everything. So most of the time, I've been going to sleep at nighttime or just randomly falling asleep throughout the day and waking up and feeling like $1 million
yes.
with this PTO time. So that's really, really driving home the thought of, making some employment changes in my life regarding schedules and all of that stuff. Because I really do feel the difference between uh, being able to go to sleep at night and waking up in the daytime, in the morning time, and feeling refreshed, as opposed to just getting home between 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning and
Yeah.
trying to go to sleep. You know, that's
Mm,
yeah, that could be a real adjustment on the body. So yeah, to me, it
mm,
is best to try to go to sleep at nighttime and
yes.
wake up in the morning feeling refreshed.
Yeah.
You have more time to get whatever it is done that you need to get done. You have a little more energy, all of that stuff. And then also too, like I like to go to see to see different bands and everything perform and all that. And much of that is nighttime light,
Right.
but you're still getting in while
Yes.
it's still dark.
Right. We can
Yeah,
still go to sleep after. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and
Ooh,
of
I'm
course,
glad you had like a shift of literally your hours this week in this season to appreciate the daylight and to,
yes, yes. Now,
yeah, and it
now,
sounds like
now,
some clarity.
yeah, it is. Every time I take PTO time off, there is a lot of clarity and everything. Now, tomorrow night, back to normal.
For now. For
For
now. So
now,
yeah.
yes, for now.
Yes.
So yes, but yeah, and I enjoyed my week, as you can see. You
I
see,
see.
uh-huh. And that's for real. Like they gave, yeah, my
Good.
top three artists, Prince Michael, and Bruno.
You got them
They
all.
made my week.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. And I'm so glad that you had a chance to like really get in with time with the people and the
Yes.
experiences that inspire you and motivate
Yeah.
you to have
Oh
that
yeah.
like re-energizing. I can hear it from you, Walter. You got some more energy this week, and
Yes,
now I hope that that energy can keep it while you figure out your next steps. You got this.
exactly. So yes, appreciate it.
Yes, awesome, and thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. We are celebrating with you for rest, for clarity, and welcoming the next shifts that need to happen. I'm glad
And
that you.
also, I got a lot of exercise with Bruno Wednesday
Oh yeah,
because I went to the concert
we. Yeah,
and I enjoyed myself.
good. I'm glad. Oh,
Yes,
I know that was good.
it was awesome. It was more than my money. It was
Good.
more than my money's worth for real.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? What is springing up?
I can share what's new for me in this season is just learning how to be a parent of adults
Yeah.
and adults that are like just grown enough to be adults, but not grown enough to know
Yeah,
adult stuff.
sure. Here. Interesting. Have
Yeah,
your
so that's
conversations with
learning.
them shifted?
Yeah, I mean, and some of the conversations that I have with myself have shifted
Hmm.
because I've had to talk myself out of, you know, calling, advising, checking as
Yeah.
much, and I'm working on doing that even less, and helping them to feel empowered to make their own
Mm-hmm.
decisions and choose their own consequences.
Oh, that's difficult. Sounds difficult. And good job. Way to create
Thank
some space for
I'm
them.
still don't congratulate me yet. I'm still
Yeah, I
working
mean,
on it.
congrats on your intention.
Thank
Yeah, that sounds like I remember that shift when I was a, young adult. I remember my mom dealing with the same thing of trying to decide how much I could tell that that was happening. Yeah.
I think my mom's still trying to deal with that too. I don't know.
Fair. Totally fair. Thank you for sharing, Tawana. So, some emerging of shifting your own approach, it sounds like. Your parenting approach is evolving right now. Cool. And I hope that wisdom will spring up for your children as well. I welcome that. Anyone else? What is springing up? What glimpses are you getting in this new season? And welcome, Susie. We're talking about spring. Welcome, Aisha. We are talking about spring and what is springing up in our lives. If any kind of new life, new growth is happening. So, anyone else want to share on that? Oh, and Tia, you have two of you. I just realized. Okay. Threw me off for a second.
One of them is so I can see and let people in when,
Right on.
There's a
We are
second
springing.
springing up.
Exactly. I was going to say a new version of Tia.
What's springing up for you is an additional you.
my clone. I wish. No, actually, I don't.
Oh,
Kind of scary. Awesome. All right. Anyone else?
Um, I have some literal and symbolic. New Mexico, we are really, really blessed with wildflowers.
Mm,
So it is a wonderful time of year for that. They're just anywhere and everywhere on the side of a sidewalk, in between. It looks like a curated botanical garden sometimes to walk through here. So I love the beginning of this time of year when it starts popping up and I'm reminded all of the things to look forward to. Um, and then yesterday, I guess the change of the seasons, I walk in the arroyo, like which is like where the water hypothetically would be if we weren't in a drought.
yeah.
But it's big. those are areas to walk in. And as I was walking through, I'm always wearing like barefoot sandals. And my feet kind of went into the dirt, and it had gotten warm enough that I realized it felt like I was walking like on the beach. And I just stopped in that moment. It was such a beautiful, really beautiful, momentary, joyful feeling, the warm sand, welcoming a new season feeling. And then I want to add energy to Walter, that will like bring something forward with you for a new opportunity. And also Tawana, I've thought about, I think since the first time I was in a room with you, I thought, God, you could sell your parent energy. I mean, I know so many unparented people that I would just sit in a room with you being silent, like, and I think it would turn me stable and normal. But I would say I think that I add that, like, one, because you made some, I don't know if it was in Meditation as a Must or in this about, um, gosh, I wish I could remember. It was a comment about something we were reflecting on where there's the kind of the matriarch. I think it was in Meditation as a Must. It was a lyric from Kendrick Lamar about the matriarch going, or from Clips, going out into the neighborhood and being that wisdom to the young people around. And the first thought I had was, God, if you let that out into the world, like, you would be swarmed. And I would think that it would be very likely that you would be overtaxed by that just incredible nurturing energy. So I would also say, trust that you could not say anything and you're still impacting them in a positive way. Because I don't know, I'm not there, but I felt it immediately. So you could step back completely verbally and in action, and they're still getting good parenting. So I know plenty of people that would pay you for it.
Thank you.
So
Absolutely. And maybe as a way to thank you for sharing that, Brian, and thank you for that affirmation for Tawana. I completely agree, and agree with the energy for Walter as well. Yeah, Tawana, if you want other folks to direct that toward in the meantime while you're trying to, I'm sure there are many that will welcome the nurturing in case your sons are at a different moment right now. But yes, I agree. Without even saying a word, you provide nurturing energy for sure. Welcome, Q. Good to see you. So we are just wrapping up our community builder. Thank you all for sharing those things that are springing forth. I'll say too, when I was thinking about this question, Brian, I also love the feeling of my feet in sand. It's one of the reasons why I play sand volleyball. And thankfully it's gotten warm enough here. And y'all, that is just one little joy in my life that if you've met me, you know that I love it. And so thankfully, here in the last 2 weeks, I have been asking around since January to find the people that play consistently, and I found them. I'm so happy. So that is a true turn of the season for me, from indoor to outdoor. Thank you for the party, because it is a grounding experience for me every time my feet are in the sand, and then just getting to know people that share my passion for that. It's been fun. So I thankfully got pointed in the right direction. So yeah. So thank you for all for sharing, and I hope that this season continues to unfold new hope, new life, as we move into summer. I will also say a sense of hope did kind of, I saw creeping in last week. There were some things that happened in Virginia in the news, and I was like, ooh, like some hope was coming. So next up, I believe, is it the blessing? I don't have it in front of me. I believe Tawana is going to bless us. Let me know if that's wrong. Yes, Tawana.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much to you and Bryant for those kind words. Um, it doesn't always feel that way as a mom because there's no rule book, so we just do the best we can with what we have. So for the blessing this week, I had a huge blessing this week. So just like Walter said that he had an amazing week with PTO, so did I. And I took time off to go to the Trinity Retreat Center and sit under the wisdom of Jasmine Bellamy and Howard Thurman, as Jasmine held a retreat called Discovering the Sound of the Genuine. And I'm excited that she's coming in May to share some pieces of that with our full community because it was just so rich. It'll be great to even hear it again. So, as part of the retreat, we actually got to hear Howard Thurman's voice several times. And one of the times he was reading through Psalm 139. And there's a particular verse that he read that stood out to me that inspired the blessing for today. So I'd like to read it. Of course, I can't imitate his big, powerful voice, but I'd like to read it the way that he read it, say a few words, and then I'll share the blessing. So Psalms 139:17. How precious are your thoughts toward me, O God. God, God. How great is the sum of them. So for me, that pregnant pause he had after Precious meant something. So I went back to um, the internet to look up the meaning of precious in Hebrew. And precious there means weighty, valuable, and difficult to comprehend. And as a bonus, because I was looking up the Hebrew translation of the verse, I also learned that your thoughts in that verse in Hebrew are derived from purpose or aim. So if you consider that, it's talking about how weighty and how valuable and how difficult to comprehend is God's purpose or aim toward us. So before I share the blessing, I'll just share that the blessing is not something that we don't have before we get the blessing. It's something that we ignite in each other as we share the blessing. So after I say what the blessing is, I'll also type it in the chat and I'll encourage you to either unmute and repeat the blessing or you can type it in the chat. So the blessing for today is you are weighing on God's mind.
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 You are weighing on God's mind. How beautiful. Thank you, Tawana. And next up, we have a contemplative moment from Lisa, speaking of weighing on God's mind. So we can contemplate.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you all will believe me, but I have pulled up on my phone here Psalm 139, which is what was on my heart for the contemplative moment. And I've actually done an extended 20-minute meditation with this particular passage, taking out verses and just highlighting how much we are companioned by God. And so thank you, Tawana, for I don't know if you were thinking it so loudly that I picked up on it or what, but thank you. So let's go within and experience what God is thinking of, which is us. And so I invite you to close your eyes if you are able, taking your gaze to the innermost parts of you where at one time you were knit together and created in your mother's womb. And imagine here inside of you where all the things are flowing, all the electricity is lighting up, and the divine presence is connecting with you. Be here and be seen, even in your hidden parts. They are lovely and they're weighing on the divine's heart. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. When I awake, I am still with you. When I awake, I am. Drawing your own breath into the I amness of you. I invite you to reinvigorate this body, this mind, and when you are ready to open your eyes, coming back to our space together here on the interweb.
Thank you, Lisa. What a cool synchronicity today. I'll pass it off now to Pastor Tia.
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Solace and Serenity. Mike Brackens, hello, sir. Hi, Aisha. Hello. Who else? Oh, Q and Susie. I think those are the folks I haven't greeted yet. Goodness, thank you, Sarah King, for leading us through the community builder, and Tawana for sharing the blessing, and Lisa for that beautiful contemplative moment. This is being recorded. We are sharing our replays on YouTube and no longer going live on Facebook. So that's been a change in the last months, in the last month, really. So just letting you all know for Zoom room purposes, kind of where this is now and where it will go in the future. So today we're going to continue what we began last week, and that's this exploration of joy. And before we do that, what we do whenever we get together is visit our mission, our vision, and our core values. So to ask for a volunteer to unmute, and if you can see our mission on the screen, please read it for us.
We equip change makers with the tools to look within and actively respond to daily life from a centered place.
Thank you, Walter. And our core values are connection, inclusiveness, and love. I share every week that these act as filters that we put everything through before we come in together as community. Our vision is to serve as a global community using contemplative spirituality to heal, renew, and inspire. And as I was listening to Sarah's community builder today, I think this is what I have been noticing lately around what is springing up or emerging is our community really moving into this vision in a deeper way. I had a moment where I was able to have a conversation. Some of you remember Bridget, who was here in Houston, Bridget and Harlow, and they've now moved to several places. And just reflecting on her movement and the conversation that we had last week. And she's making some plans to come to Houston. Our schedules aren't aligning, but she asked about our in-person gathering and when it happens and where it is, and intending to be there if her schedule works out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like Bridget would then meet Bryant on, Zoom, or like just or Tawana in person. And yeah, so the movement of spirit in going beyond, limitations that are geographical, and just kind of been in awe of how things have been transpiring lately. So uh, that's my answer to the community builder as part of truth communication. Today we are exploring joy as resistance. I was sharing last week about the role that joy has played on a very personal level, but also how I see it as an act of resistance on a collective level, because we know everything is connected. And so today, the intention is to explore the regenerative power of joy. And we're going to do this through a community conversation with Bryant Avery. Bryant has shared, through several opportunities when we have time for reflections or questions at the end of Solace and Serenity, or the end of the Truth Communication, doing the community builder. And Roz vocalized what I think many of us have come to sense is that Bryant has wisdom to share with us. And I think Roz's words were like, I just want to sit and listen to Bryant. So that's kind of what is going to happen today. Before we get into the conversation, however, I want to ground this conversation in a prophetic stream and look at a couple of things as it relates to joy. So let's take a moment to do that. The prophetic stream that I would like to ground it in is a stream that I sense and experience as a continuous stream. And what I want to bring us to before we have this conversation is the way that prophets re really looked at trees, fig trees to be exact. So there are several mentions of fig trees throughout Scripture, both the Old and New Testament. Prophets often used withered or fruitless fig trees to critique corruption, especially among leaders. And the implication being that when there's no fruit, no justice, no mercy, no faithfulness, the system itself has become hollow. And many of us are familiar with this from the Gospel of Mark, specifically Mark 11, verses 12 through 25. What happens in these verses is Jesus curses a fig tree and he clears the temple court. So just looking at the first few verses from that passage, I'll actually read 12 through 15 here. But it starts with, the next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard him say it. So these words from Jesus towards this tree, and the fact that here the reader is being informed that the disciples heard him say it, are important, as are the actions that come after. So the next verse says, on reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and he began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. So if we sit with this for a moment as a way to kind of land in this prophetic stream, Jesus isn't randomly cursing a fig tree. He's enacting a prophetic sign. He's talking about a system that looks alive, but produces no justice, and how that is a system that is withering. And so the fig tree becomes a stand-in for a religious economic system that is performative, not transformative. In the book of Habakkuk, but I'm not trying to make rhymes here, it just works that way. Uh, verses or chapter 3, verse 17 through 18. So now we're moving into Old Testament as a way to kind of deepen this prophetic flow. It says, though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. So here the fig tree isn't just personal spirituality. It represents the health of the entire community structure. And this joy that we're talking about is not just like, I pulled this meme up, this like, I'm fine, everything is fine when, like, no, it's not. This is what's being referenced here is a deeper joy. I'm almost at a loss for words to describe it. But I want to kind of bring us back to these verses. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines. Though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. Now, there are several reasons that could lead to there not being grapes on the vine. Several reasons that crops fail, several reasons that fields produce no food. But when we get into the idea of no sheep in the pen, no cattle in the stalls, this is starting to talk about what was happening at this time and going back to the hollowness of the system. And I've said in several truth communications that the root of injustice has to do with how we are stewarding our abundance. So as I sit with this, I start to ask the question, well, where are the sheep? Where are the the cows? Where are these resources that help to sustain a community? These resources that when um, they are shared instead of hoarded or stored up, which this is who the prophets are speaking to, right? Is um, the way that that systems are functioning. So what happens when these resources are shared? Well, then the community flourishes. So this is yes, we are talking about joy, but we're talking about it from um, beneath the surface level. We're talking about it from a depth. So this is where we're sharing from today. And to give you a little, welcome, Andrea, to give you a little bit of context about uh, Brian and I's connection. So Brian and I connected before the 2025 Black Contemplative Prayer Summit via email. And then we reconnected this summit season. And I remember when the summit was going on, there was a point where uh, during Reverend Jamon's session, he invited us to, he told us of an experience that he had in looking at someone. I actually was there in the room with him when this was happening. He and I are both part of the Reflective Leadership Grant cohort from Duke. And there was a exercise they had us go through where we looked at the person across from us at the table, and you drew a picture, a portrait of them, but you couldn't look down. So you were looking at your person and you're drawing their face. You couldn't look down. You also couldn't lift up your writing instrument, I think was the other stipulation. All of that to say, it led him to seeing his person across from him as an icon. And so during the 2026 summit, as the Zoom room was shifting and moving, Bryant's Zoom square was consistent for me where it fell on the summit. And so Bryant kind of became the icon that I gazed at after Jumon's session. And so I was really happy to see when they joined us for solace and serenity following the summit. And then over time, what has developed is, in a way, we've had conversations, and we've also kind of become pen pals. I was sharing with Bryant, like, there was one point where they shared their phone number, and I was like, oh man, if this moves to text, then like I feel like I'm like losing something, but we can have the both and, right? So these email exchanges have become a way for me to kind of sit and slow down and soak in what's being shared and uh, put some real thought around how I respond. So that brings us to this Sunday. So last week, unbeknownst to me, which I think unbeknownst is a very fun word, if you would like to see if you can move it into your conversation today, give it a try, see how it goes. So unbeknownst to me, last week I start to share about joy is resistance. And I had an email in my inbox from Bryant from days before that said this. So I'm just gonna read the quote from Bryant. It says, "I am convinced of the reality of the regeneration of Earth, humanity, and the restoration of our collective connection to Christ. And I do believe that joy is the special ingredient we need to break the barrier down." And I think, many of us have also heard Bryant share here and there when uh, David led the community builder a while back. There was an invitation to remember a moment in history where you remember specifically where you are or where you were. So things like where I was on 9/11, like these big moments in history came out of that. And Bryant shared, I remember where I was when it started raining in the desert and the whole grocery store just erupted in joy because we've been in this drought. And so I think that says a lot about um, the perspective that Bryant holds and offers. And so that is a little bit of the prophetic history, the communal implications that joy can have as we lean into um, prophetic wisdom, and also a little bit of context of how we are getting to this conversation today. So I want to thank Bryant for joining us and agreeing to answer a few questions today. I also want to share that Brian's Bryant's pronouns are they and them. And so that is um, important information, especially as we go into a space where the community can ask questions. I ask you to be mindful of that. And Brian, I thank you for joining us. We often speak of spiritual formation here quite a bit. I'm going to spotlight you and me because this is going to be shared on YouTube. And then this is going to make it easier for YouTube to see us. So, Brian, thank you for joining us. I'm going to be quiet and let you say whatever it is you'd like to say.
Oh, well, I'll have more. My thank you will be, I just have to reserve it to be longer than today.
Okay.
So I'm the meaningfulness of being with all of you and to be developing a relationship with you, Tia, and the whole group is, yeah, that's joy. That's the monsoon in the desert for
Mm.
me. So I'll have plenty more to say, but I'm was happy the the first moment of would you consider a blessing and then would you want to do a conversation? I was like, I'll consider being happy about it all day, every day until it happens and afterwards too. So
Oh, well, thank you.
glad to be here.
So, Bryant, you know that much of our gatherings focus on spiritual formation quite a bit. And so I'm wondering if you would share with us whatever you would about your own journey and how it led you, or maybe it kept you on the contemplative path. But what would you share about your journey?
I'm so glad that when you and I talked, you mentioned that that was a question because it gave me, I think it was something that I needed to reflect on because as I thought about things that I brought up little bits of grief practice or land practice and all of that. And what I realized, I've got a little oracle card that I is where the story really begins. It's like, what if your there's a glare? What if your strangeness is actually your brilliance? Um, and so I thought this is really an opportunity for me to be honest about myself, um, because my spiritual formation, um, I mean, I have memory starting in the womb, memory from infancy, and there was there are things that it's like this is an opportunity to kind of unmask, um, to use terms of neurodivergence and to come out, that I my experience of what was happening around me, of whether people were telling the truth, how systems were operating, how relationships were working, was physical and palpable and intense from moment one of life. Um, so I was um, sprinkled at birth into Calvinism, into the PCA, into a very, very harmful theology, and but was in what was referred to as Christian school, and at the same church. So there's religious formation, but I don't have any. I don't think there was ever a moment where I was not in some sort of contemplative practice, even as a kid, of noticing what was happening around me and having very, very strong opinions and knowing what I agreed with and didn't agree with. Um, and it was emotional and physical. I remember, you know, the feeling of resonating with like the turning over the tables, which I'm glad that you brought that up because I felt like that was like how many times I wanted to walk into some type of space I was supposed to be respecting and turn the tables over and say, this isn't real. But because um, I was born into extreme violence and was in a very harmful theology, the formation of me was also retreating to myself, even as a child, and to find ways to teach myself to grieve and to teach myself how to know what it was I was hearing and how to live out who I was in as many ways as I could. And so I think the two things that came up in answering my spiritual formation is one, like being a bit of a veil hopper. Like I did never have like an ordinary viewpoint on life, but also am like very highly analytical and will be like the neurodivergent hyper focus of pattern recognition and where everything will fall at the feet of data and information and accuracy, even at the cost of belonging or agreement. I had absolutely no, like, I mean, autonomy was what I stood upon. So even as a kid, the concept of somebody else telling me what the truth was, whether a pastor or parent, was not part of my world. And I thought that it was dangerous, to other people. And so those things merged because I sought to know, well, who am I and who is God? Because I'm very certain that the person of Jesus and the person of God are not the people that I'm being. I know that they're real, but they're not who I'm being spoken to about. Um, so there's a lot of steps after that of how I taught myself to grieve and taught myself to be with the land and how to maintain, um, who I knew I was, and also that really have led to who I believe Jesus to be, and what the place of joy is. And so there's a lot of, that's a teaser trailer.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
it makes sense. If stuff doesn't make sense outside of my mind, once it gets to words, just tell me.
I think that comes across pretty clear. Thank you. So, this is a question that I'm always curious to ask people because um, of the variety of beautiful answers that often come. And that is, what is contemplation to you? Like if someone was to come to you and be like, what are you talking about, contemplative? What is that? What is contemplation?
The first thing for me is it's one of the things that I didn't know was a thing. So because I didn't, like when I heard words like ritual, and the first time someone talked about they were traveling, like dimensional travel or astral travel, I was like, what is that? And they're just like, Bryant, you're doing that all the time. Like it's something that's just it's in you. So I've asked myself that. It's like, what is contemplative spirituality? What is contemplation? Like it's the thing I'm doing all the time. But I think it's noticing. And it's being noticing specificity of ourselves and of our own intuition and our bodies and our location and people, and being affected by what we're noticing, and being intentional about the noticing, intentional about the effect, and then being in integrity to those noticings, responding to the details that come up in ourselves and in whether it's the land or in other people or in what comes through in music or dance, or so noticing and being affected and being in integrity to those things.
Okay, this is where we get into more of the joy part of this. And this is really Brian and I had a call planned before last Sunday. And then, as I said, I had that email from Brian about joy and a couple of other things. Anyways, so the questions that I'm sharing now are because as we were talking, I was like, oh man, I wish there were other people listening to this conversation. So, during that conversation, you offered a unique take on joy in Jesus that I don't think I've heard anyone talk about before. And so, will you share a bit of how you've reflected on the relationship between Jesus and joy, joy and Jesus? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, it's joyful. Like that's what I kept thinking last week when you were talking. I was like, this conversation is joyful, the response is joyful, the questions that are coming up is joyful. But I think about Jesus as person, and I think so many of us in our community, like when I hear, oh, and hi Roz, because Roz did say she's coming back for the replay. Think about the artists in our community, parents, teachers, like the moment when a teacher notices that a student has gotten something, that there's a new thought, there's a new process, the way that that feels. When you realize that your kid is flowing through something they didn't used to, when a message has gotten across, when your art has been seen. And it's like those moments of just absolute fulfillment and flow. And yet, like Jesus is completely in activist teacher. And he is some of the things that we struggle with as contemplative people, of superficial conversation or not being in the kind of work that we need to be in. He's not in that. He's in meaningful conversation. He's in doing what he needs to be doing. He's got a diverse group of friends. He's got his basic needs looked out for. Um, that's a guy that he's when he's told not to do his magic in front of people, he does it anyway. And then he does it and it works. And then he speaks and people ask questions. And he does have an emotional, intense emotionality and goes into spaces that need to be confronted and does it. And I mean, that's a fulfilled guy. There's no possibility that this is the burdened, dutiful, like non-emotional person. And I've never seen visual representation of Jesus laughing or smiling, um, or heard discussion of like somebody that knows that the empire, like the biggest thing going, the worst thing going, is after him, but he does it anyway. Um, I think that tells us so much about what's going on in him as a person. That he's got meaningful relationships, he's got meaningful work. Um, he continues even when has obstacles. Um, he's grieving deeply, which means he's feeling deeply. I think there's so much in him and so much what we know about him and his tenderness to story, his tenderness to nature, that says like that's like it's some of the beginning of where even the question that we have, like, should we pursue joy? Is joy okay? I was like, I mean, I think he had to have been a joyful person to be continuing that way, because joy is really the thing that keeps a person going. And that I think if we notice how, I mean, his energy affects us, it brings us to connect more, to share more, to think more about possibility and potential. It tells us about him. So I think there's a lot of room for understanding joy and understanding him more as person, even from our own experiences of what would we feel like if we're really in our fulfilling work and if we're in our flow and if people are responding to what we have to say and the art that we present. Um, yeah, I think he's a spicy guy and we don't talk about it.
So something else. I like that. Jesus is a spicy guy. It needs to be on a t-shirt, I think.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I would love to have seen him turn over a table in front of those people, and say, your rules aren't my rules, you know?
mhm.
That's he has a lot of fire.
So that leads me to another thing that you said as we were talking. You said that joyful people are hard to stop.
Mhm.
Will you please say more about that?
Yeah. Well, bodies are more likely to heal from illness, bodies that contain joy. That's from all perspectives. Relationships that are motivated by joy are more likely to resolve conflict. Um, Joyful people, there tends to be a lot more space in the mind to think, well, if this can happen, then that can happen. And if I was able to solve it last time, I can probably solve it again. And if I've got something to live for, then I can live through the hard thing. And I know that being in really, really dire, there was no way out kind of circumstances, and no support, even as a kid, my my pursuit forward, the curiosity and the enthusiasm was probably the thing that was looked upon with the most disdain, because there was no amount of harm that was being done to me that would keep me from seeing beauty. And the more I saw it, the more I wanted to see it. And the more I saw beauty, the more I asked questions about, well, is what I'm being told about there not being enough, and there's people that you've got to hate, and that life is about suffering, and that somebody had to die because you're so terrible. I mean, it led me to say, well, but there's beauty and there's possibility and there's potential and there's healing, which means that is happening. So is what I'm hearing real? And it does ignite something that is impossible to stop. If you've got, like, that I mean, I knew I wanted to reclaim myself, and I knew I had a call to be a part of regenerating and bringing joy back into people and into the world. And that meant that I was willing to get through all kinds of impossible circumstances. And also from pattern recognition, anything from domestic violence to religious dogma to fascism, all forms of abuse, they're all joy killers. And if they're all after the same thing, then the thing they're after is really, really important. Because joyful people get together, joyful people dance and sing, and like Pride Parade is such a wonderful example to me last year at Santa Fe Pride. And I was feeling it, and people of all ages and abilities and lives and relationships and cultures and colors are just all together. And it's kind and easy and fun and expressive. And there's absolutely nothing that is being done to create that happening. The only thing is that the lie that that shouldn't be happening isn't there for a few hours. And it's such an example to me of how easy it is for people to get along and create and honor each other's needs, and that it's more of what gets in the way. And then we come up with all of these, well, how do we research how to get people to agree, and how do we come up with this policy and that policy? And I think it's more, how do we get what's taking the joy away? Because when people are allowed to live, then they want other people to live. And when people are joyful, they want other people to be joyful, and they want other people to be safe. So I think that it's, yeah, and it is important to pay attention to that. If some abusive person or structure wants to take away joy, then that tells you everything that you need to know about whether we need to keep it, and whether it is absolutely our responsibility to hang on to it.
Okay. Ooh, I'm glad this is being recorded. Okay. This is the final thing I think that I'll ask, and then we'll open it up to the community. So if you have a question for Bryant, then excuse me, there will be space to share it. And this is kind of flowing into the last thing you were saying, and it's the first quote that I shared from you that came from the email, which I hope it's okay to share because I didn't ask for permission. So I ask for forgiveness if it was not okay. Okay. So in this email, you said, I am convinced of the reality of the regeneration of Earth, humanity, and the restoration of our collective connection to Christ. And I do believe that joy is the special ingredient we need to break the barrier down. So, as you're highlighting the importance of paying attention to what may be trying to suffocate joy, can you also now speak to how you see it as a source of regeneration?
Do you mind, will you repeat that?
Yes. Will you speak to joy as being regenerative?
Yeah. I mean, I think that regeneration is in the air. I mean, that to me, like, it's just that I really believe that who God is and what creation is and what the sacred is, that it is, regeneration is literally in ourselves. Um, and I think that it is not something we have to create or come up with, or I think that it's just there. I think that's what life is. So in my, I, because I am like a serious studier, and like meant like I was like intuitively studying. And I wasn't in an environment where there was any joy, and I certainly wasn't taught that I deserved to experience joy. Quite the opposite. Um, that it wasn't, I'm glad for anyone that believes in joy because they experienced it or because they saw it. But that was not my experience. And anyone that heard God or Jesus or life at all the way that I heard it. It's like there's no reason to want to participate. There's no reason to believe in anything good, to like the people that they're saying are God or Jesus. It's like I don't know who that boring guy is that they talk about. It's not the same person that I'm talking to. Because to me, when I paid attention to the earth, it was like our bodies heal, like relationships, conflict comes up and things can get better, not just can we address conflict. Um, and I think that even like I think about ancestral medicine, where we can actually deeply physically energetically address what has happened in ourselves and what has happened before us, that there is reclamation where it really does actually change current circumstances, where ancestral reverence and grief really do change relationships that are seen as that in the material world and in dogma are seen as those relationships are over. There's people that are incarnated and there's people that are dead. There's here and there's there. And to me, I don't think there's a here and a there. I think that this is where we are, that like this is heaven, this is hell.
Mm.
The the separation is that we're told that it's different than that. That we're told that regeneration isn't real, that love isn't enough, that life has to end, that there's a separation between us. And to me, that I think that when experiencing moments of joy, even tiny moments of joy, the contemplation in that is notice what happens in your body. Notice the way that your blood pressure will change and your thought processes change and how you address your day changes. That is the micro of the entire thing. And if we are in those moments where we're aware of, okay, there was a different state, that's part of contemplation, is just noticing that there is actually something different. And that was something that was like, if this state in me of knowing that I can continue, of knowing that there are enough resources, that all kinds of people can get along, if those things are happening, that is real. And I do think that the earth, that regeneration is, I just think that it's available, and I think it's relational, and I think that um, we, being separate from being in deep, intimate relationship with ourselves and each other and the land and those who have passed, are that's where we lose that spark. Because I think to become, well, how do we solve it? It's gone too far. Like, I don't think that there is a too far from the standpoint of the creator and from the standpoint of the sacred. I think that it is we have it right now, and it is to take joy in our right to be joyful, and that is the way to respect. Um, I think like respect isn't the repetition of pain, and it is not to respect what has happened to ourselves and to everyone else, is not to continue in that pain and decide that that has to be what we follow. I think it's our, if we notice that joy is happening, if we notice regeneration is possible, then we take it to its furthest extent and we take it backwards and forwards. Um, so I don't think it's a like a therapeutic principle to come up with. I really believe that it is life itself. I think that the incredible world that we are born into comes out of an extremely joyful, generative mind. Um, and I can't imagine a creator that would not want us to fully live that, and that anyone who is currently having that taken from them or has in all of the years past would want anything less than us claiming it on their behalf and on our behalf. Um, I don't think there's a done, and I think we need to act like it.
Are you open to questions from the community? I made a big assumption there that you would
Oh,
be.
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
If you have a question, Bryant, thank you. I have many more questions, and I also want to make space for others' questions. Part of me is also just like, I'm just gonna sit here and put my pen down in my head and just keep listening. But a question for Bryant from anybody that's joining us. Aisha in the comments says, preach with all caps. You're welcome to unmute if there's anything that you would like to share with Bryant.
Hey, this is Aisha here. Man, this is just this is good. And it's so what's the word? Comforting or um sorry, can y'all hear me okay? Okay. It's so yeah, therapeutic or something to hear you speak on so many things that's been on my heart, but I don't think I had the words to say. Um, yeah. And then one of the things you mentioned was, Jesus being a joyful person, a content person, fulfilled. And I always notice how in images of him, like he just looks sad and spiritual. And in the movie, The Passion of the Christ, it was just I don't know. The movie was whatever, but the main thing that stood out to me was there's a tiny scene where he's like laughing and playing with some kids. And I was like, oh my gosh! And I think it made me cry. It was just so beautiful and amazing. I was just like, that's the God that I know. You know? Yeah. Thank you. This was good.
Thank you.
I'm going to add to that the whole thing about Jesus also being joyful. I have this movie on DVD. It was produced by, I think it was produced by TBN. It's called The Revolutionary. And there's a part where it gets to the wedding, with Jesus on the water to wine. Like, but before he did that, there's a part where you actually do see him dancing and having fun with kids and all. So when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, our Lord has rhythm." So yeah, so he has rhythm, he's got joy and all of that. And so I'm so glad that you did mention that. So yeah, yes, on one hand, yes, he could be very serious when he needs to be, but there's also that other part, that's also part of the relationship, joy, peace, everything. So thank
Yeah. Yeah, I think somebody that can raise somebody from the dead, like there's got to be, that's a lot of spark. That's a lot of energy. And I think to give credit, like to Mary Magdalene, who's worth grieving? Who's worth going after? Like, who's worth showing up for and missing and worrying about? Like, there's a lot to say in giving her credit for, she's probably some kind of burdened, passive, like basically God's like paper pusher, is not who Mary Magdalene is showing up for. Um, and yeah, that's an emotionally attuned, effective person that she wants to make sure is taken care of, and she's worried and she's missing. And I think we think about who would we miss that much and
you.
who would impact us that much.
Yeah. And there was also that because I also had the Passion of the Christ also. And there's that one scene where you see Jesus and his mother. They're joking around like he's in the middle of building a table. And she's like, it's a large table, and he's like, this is for a large man. So yeah.
Well, I feel so activated that I want to talk about 10 things, Bryant, that you touched upon. And I'll kind of pick up on you were talking about Mary Magdalene just then, and what I heard in that was joy and devotion kind of woven together. Her devotion to Jesus, and that uh, spoke to me. But um, one of the things that I have really experienced and under the ministry of Awakenings and Tia is I have been allowed to be whoever I am. And when you talked about the weird, I really love that because that's where our genius is hidden in our unique weirdness, each of us. And it's been celebrated, and I've been reminded to celebrate here. When I do something that's big, I would have probably always fallen to the side of worrying about a lot of stupid stuff, kind of the Martha side of things. And he would say, "Are you celebrating?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And so just reminding, anyway, these were just the things that you were weaving in your experience of joy being thwarted and then discovering where to find joy and bring it into the stream of life. I have so much more. I'm going to just stop there, but thank you. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, I think we free each other. Like joy leads us to free each other. And then that frees each other's joy. So that's another part of it being generative, is that it's something that continues and builds. And it's important to pay attention to what kinds of things build. We can build in one direction or the other. But we know that joy builds each other up, and then somebody else has a new idea and somebody else has a new connection, and that is unstoppable if that's what we allow to happen.
Yeah, this was very beautiful. Thank you, Bryant. Um, I wrote down as you were speaking, that there is, especially around someone with joy, is unstoppable or cannot be stopped. And it made me think of, through that piece and then through um, the other things that you were sharing, that joy can come out and be demonstrated and illustrated and look like so many different things in so many ways. Yes, joy is laughter, joy is dancing, joy is um, things that we can see, but then joy is also a presence. And it makes me think of one of my daughters she spends a lot of time in stillness and a lot of time alone and with her art. And she's not going to jump and yell and shout, but she'll spend a lot of time with her art and in contemplation. And that brings her so much joy. And I can see that in how she's spending her time. And then also in thinking of Jesus, you just know there was joy present because of what was happening around him. Who you want to be around someone who is joy is coming off of them, right? And so in you sharing, it just made me think of all the ways joy can show up. It doesn't always have to be something we see, but it might be something that we feel.
Thank you for sharing that. It reminded me of, like, back to the beginning of, don't hold back on what my actual formation was, because to someone else, like, analysis and objectivity and analyzing patterns, and even it's like, particularly because I focus on a lot of the information isn't good. It's like the patterns of fascism and religious dogma, and think, well, that's so negative. And it's like, but to me, it's joyful because it's the way that my soul and my body and my brain are operating, and it brings an incredible, like, being specific is joyful to me, and being in my analysis, recognizing patterns, and there is to see that as sacred. Um, the way that we each operate individually, and the way that we see and live, and then it doesn't have to be anything that brings anybody else any joy. It can just be being in our own thing. So I feel connection to your kiddo on that.
We have time for one more question or comment if anyone else would like to share anything.
I do, if I can get myself off mute. Thank you, Brian, for the beautiful message. What definitely piqued my ears was the mentioning of the part about the knowing as a child, like early in birth, that beginning of what's happening around is not joyful, not safe. And then the images of people wearing Jesus. I'm just sharing that, that's where the entryway for me of everything that you said is inspiring, is with that more about how how children are allowed to express themselves, what children know, what Jesus knew that children know, because everyone said he played with children, he ran with the children, he laughed with the children, he sat with the children. So I just wanted to say thank you for this beautiful offering of how we sit with joy, how we think about joy, and how it's allowed, especially in my work, I get to hear people wondering if they should allow themselves joy. So you gave me more words to help others as I go about in my work. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for when that question comes up of who told you that you shouldn't. Like when we say the conversation about let's talk about joy, one of the things that I came up is like, why do we have to ask that question? It's really important to ask why we have to ask that question, and why so many people don't know what their joy is and whether it's their right to experience. That it's not to dismiss or degrade participating in the conversation, but to say, who told you you weren't supposed to live? And for us to really address that.
Yes. And thank you for bringing that up, because quite a few people that I'm in conversation with are neurodivergent, and the black and white thinking can lead to what's happening in the world, their sadness. So how can I be joyful with what people are experiencing? Yeah, so I will ask that question. That is one of my questions. Who told you? Why not? But I had to ask that. I often have to ask myself that question sometimes with everything that's happening. Like, right? Should I? Can I?
Yeah. Well, I think that, and when I say that, I mean it's a legitimate question. We are asking that for a reason, because there's an answer. That it has been thieved. Life has been, taken. So it's not, and I understand from my own going through violence and homelessness and poverty and illness that it was not, I was not empowered by any human voice or system. But I just mean it's important to say we need to recognize where the suffocation is coming from, so that we can understand how to really know deeply that it is our right, and how to know how to live because we all know, like even within ourselves, there's joy in grief, and that joyful people are generally more helpful people, and are that we can. I guess that's what I like that I'm. It's different to dismiss someone else's pain in an effort to keep ourselves comfortable than it is to continue to live as an act of reverence to ourselves and to people that are not that don't have the same rights and access, um, that both can be happening. But we've got to keep ourselves alive for ourselves and keep ourselves alive so we can do something about
Yes.
what world. It's not us giving up our joy does not reduce suffering for anybody.
Amen.
It just makes us defeated, which that's what they want. So I don't, that's part of me seeking joy is just to be against the things that I was told not to have. Like just to say, if you're telling me not to be joyful and you're telling me not to keep going, then I'm just going to keep going. So.
My goodness. Bryant, is there anything else that you feel moved to share with us as we move towards I don't think this is a closing. I think it's just a like put the book down to the side, but the page is still open type of conversation.
And I think that's what I want to say is I just appreciate so much um, the safety in knowing that you all are still here. Just from having been experiencing so much isolation and not having safe, supportive community, in noticing even last week when I wasn't physically able to respond in the way I wanted to, there was fear in not being able to say it right now. And I thought, well, these people are there later today, and this community exists tomorrow, and these conversations can be conversation starters. So I think having this community, and knowing that it's continuing and that it is a secure and safe and generative place, is just so healing and thrilling. So I'm excited for lots more conversations and responses and playlists and ideas and all.
Thank you. Yes, if you will continue to share the love and appreciation as you are doing towards Bryant, that would be wonderful. Bryant, thank you. Yes, echoing what Sarah's saying, so rich. I mean, I'm not gonna hoard a pen pal. I think if you were if you were open to, dialogue with folks, Bryant is in group me, and yeah, I just feel like with I don't know, this is in my mind, right? The text message is like an immediate like you know what I mean? And I don't know, something about communicating with you via email is very regenerative is the word. So yeah, I'm not
It's
volunteering
like
you.
letter writing, Tia. It's like
Yes,
the old school when
it
we
is.
would write letters and you could sit and savor it. And I just want to add, because I'm driving while you guys are talking, there's a little kid with their window down with their bubble maker out the window. So bubbles are blowing. So there's some joy.
Yay.
That's what in thinking about Santa Fe Pride, I was like, this is the only place I see adults involuntarily cheering about bubbles. And it's like, obviously something good is happening here if adults feel free to be yelling about how excited they are about bubbles.
Yes, yes. So
I
thank
like
you.
bubbles too. I like seeing colorful bubbles and children having joy blowing them and everything.
Exactly. Oh, Lisa says
That's
a new
my best
contemplative.
kept secret. My grandkids actually think I buy bubbles for them. Yeah, that's my secret. My best grandma secret.
Oh, goodness. Oh. Lisa says a new contemplative practice is email pen pals. I highly recommend it. I'm not volunteering Bryant's email or time to do so. Obviously, there's dialogue that can take place, but Bryant is in GroupMe and pretty active in that space. So thank you all for being here. And Bryant, thank you again. I know I keep saying it, but I'm just very grateful for what you have shared today and for being present with us.
I stayed alive to end up
Appreciate
with
it.
you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Wow. It feels appropriate to just sit for a moment. I don't know. My pen was up, it was down, I was taking notes, I was listening. Maybe, there were things that were shared as as questions and response. So what I would invite us to do is to just to sit for a moment, to sit in this space. There were questions that were asked about who told you and why not. Some declarations made about joy, the importance of it. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment and allow us just to sit and be. If your awareness has found its way somewhere other than your own breath, then I would invite you to find your inhale and your exhale. To notice where you are being supported in the space that you're in, whether that's a physical seat or something that's not tangible, or both. God, we thank you that giving up our joy does not reduce suffering for anyone. We thank you for the stream of prophetic wisdom that has continuously flowed through space and time. Help our hearts be attuned to all the ways that joy shows up. Help us to reclaim joy, to lay down any beliefs that joy is anything other than ours. And in a world which often provides images of Jesus suffering, give us the inspiration to imagine in revolutionary ways. To reconnect and learn through the fullness of the human experience. Thank you that joy leads us to free each other, that joy is presence. And we thank you once again for the openness and the yes from Bryant to share with us today. We pray that as we move forward, we would also be brought back to this moment. That it would impact the action that we take. Thank you for the gift of our breath. The freedom to be who we are. And the thread of intuition which alerts us to so many things. May we stay attuned to the beat of joy in each and every moment. Not in spite of the circumstances, but because of the circumstances. And it is in the energy and love of Christ that I pray, and we say, Amen. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, if anyone else, if you want to continue to add reflections in the chat, you're welcome to. We're coming up on the final week of April, which seems wild, speaking of time, and our offering moment. So to share quickly where we are today. Thank you, Sekunda. A quick update on giving. Text to give is an easy, it's another option. It may not be easy for everybody, but it's an additional way to give. I will let you decide how ease-filled it is. The way that it works is you text the dollar amount, text awaken and the dollar amount to this number provided by SecureGive. The number is 832-481-4434. You can make a one-time gift, you can set a sustaining gift, and essentially the platform kicks back a automated message to you confirming the amount. And so that is a way in which you can sow into and invest in our community. The other ways are through SecureGive itself as a platform that can be found on awakeningsinc.org, as can our Venmo, which is Awakenings-Inc., and our Cash App, which is Awakenings Movement. We have a budget of $5,160 for April. Excuse the typo there on March. I had to go back to an old slide. That should say April giving. So for the month, we, as of late last week, we were at $3,176. That number may have changed since I put this slide together. But that is for April. And so we are grateful for the ways in which you all continue to invest in our community financially and the impact that it has on our mission, our vision, and creating space where we can be together and have conversations like this. So that is the way to give, and want to thank those of you who are catching this as a replay on YouTube. And if something here resonates and you feel moved to share the joy, then please do share with your friends or family that you think would appreciate what Bryant has shared here and what's been offered as the experience in general.